So I'm going to tell you guys a story to start off with because I love stories a lot. It's about this kid named Dominic. And Dominic was going to school 25 years ago at the age of 10. Dominic and I are the same age, by the way. So I was 10, but he was going to school 6,000 miles away. Just on his way to school, I'm assuming with some friends, like buddies, thinking about playing soccer. What 10-year-olds think about, maybe not girls yet, maybe, I don't know. And he got kidnapped by the Lord's Resistance Army, the LRA. They kidnapped Dominic. They most likely killed a friend of his to scare him into believing they were in charge, brainwashed him. And Dominic was a really good student of the LRA. He was actually the best student of the LRA, this rebel group that has been kidnapping children. He's so good that he actually rose through the ranks. By the age of 18, he was a brigadier. By the age of 21, he was a commander. And he was the best commander, the most brutal, the most violent. That 10 years ago, in 2005, when the International Criminal Court indicted 5 of the top commanders, Dominic Ongwen became one of the 5. Coney included, Vincent Oti, and a few others. There are only 2 remaining on the battlefield, Coney and Dominic Ongwen. The international community was actually in outrage because they said you cannot indict an individual for crimes that were committed against that individual. Does that make sense? So he was indicted for the crimes that were put upon him and against him. So when I think about the topic today, this topic of ugly, it's even just an ugly word, ugly. I think about that. I think about how ugly that is, that this kid, 10 years old, got his life literally taken away, and he did what he was told to do, and by doing that, he became indicted by the world's first international court. When I was 10 years old, I was entering into this thing called homeschool. Do you guys know what that is? It's a school in your home. So you literally wake up and you're like, hey, Mom. And my mom's like, I got to go to work. And my dad's like, I got to go to work. So I'm like in my pajamas like, okay, this is awesome. It's actually not that awesome because when you actually graduate from homeschool and go to high school, you actually don't have any friends. Yeah, because like the last time you had friends was in 6th grade and now you're in 9th grade. And so you literally, like if high school's not bad enough, you just walk around like, I remember just thinking like, I just want one friend. Like that would be so cool to have one friend. And so I had this one friend and I would sit with her and her 10 girlfriends. And that wasn't the right thing to do because at lunchtime, these guys, specifically one day, started throwing food at my face, okay? Is it bullying? Yeah, kind of. I mean, I remember specifically a carrot hitting my forehead and just looking at 20 guys and they're like throwing sandwiches and they're laughing. So I just like slowly backed away. Like, I'm just going to be over here. And I literally became invisible for like 2 years. I put like a hood around my head and I would just walk through the halls and just try to ignore people. And I believed that if I didn't make a ruckus, say anything, do anything, that I could make it through high school, until one day in a class, the teacher said, we're going to have every person come up to the stool right here, and the class is going to write what they think about you, their first impression of you, and I'm going to read it to you anonymously. Exactly. Imagine that in high school, y'all. I'm 16 years old. My heart just drops to my stomach. For 2 months, I was in severe depression. I couldn't finish school. I had to be with my mom. I would leave school. It got so bad that one night I actually thought, okay, I can't face this classroom, so I think I have to end my life. It was so traumatized. And my heart just like, it was an ugly time in my life. It wounded me like you wouldn't believe. And so when I think of ugliness, at the core of what it is, it's something that is unwanted in the world, something that is unworthy, you know, or just something that's, is not right. Like my daughter, Everly, she's 5. And yesterday, she yelled at her brother, like, I want this right now, blah, blah. And I'm always like, don't be ugly. That's ugly. When you treat people like that, you're supposed to share, you know? That's what we try to teach our kids, and then we grow up and we stop sharing, you know? Isn't that weird? Like, we're like, no, it's mine. I earned it. Like, this is mine. And we're like, no, share, because we're like, saying mine is actually ugly, you know? I think it's gross. So the thing that's fascinating to me is that Steve Jobs, Barack Obama, our president, and Oprah Winfrey have something in common. Do you know what this is? They were all mistakes. They were all unwanted by their parents. It was like, whoops. Oprah's parents were together once under a tree in Mississippi when her mother was 14 years old. True story. No, I bring it up because Oprah to this day says that the biggest lessons she learned about interviewing 30,000 people on her show over 25 years is that everyone at all times is asking these 3 questions. Do you see me? Do you hear me? And does what I say mean anything to you? If that is not at the core of all creatives, what is? Do you see me? Do you hear me? And does what I say mean anything to you? Now, I'm going to read a lot of Charlie Kaufman. I tried to not do that because I feel like it's lazy to just sit here and read someone else's words, but they're so good. They're like so good because Charlie Kaufman, if you guys don't know him, he's the screenwriter who did like Being John Malkovich and Eternal, Spotless of the Sunshine Man. What's it called? Eternal. You know what I'm talking about. And he did Adaptation, and he's like this crazy, so insecure. He's so insecure, but like his insecurity makes him write these like magnificent stories and screenplays. And so after 6 months of like prepping his talk, he went to London and he gave this talk that's an hour. And I'm just gonna give you like 3 minutes of what he said. So this is the first thing he said. And if you're like me, sometimes I like to just close my eyes, not to be weird or zen or anything, but like the brain can imagine what he's talking about more than if you just look at me standing here reading it. Okay, so if you want to do that, feel free. This is what he says. I do believe you have a wound, too. I do believe it is both specific to you and common to everyone. I do believe it is the thing about you that must be hidden and protected. It is the thing that must be tap danced over 5 shows a day. It is the thing that won't be interesting to other people if revealed. It is the thing that makes you weak and pathetic. It is the thing that truly, truly, truly makes loving you impossible. It is your secret, even to yourself, but it is the thing that wants to live. It is the thing from which your art, your painting, your dance, your composition, your philosophical treatise, your screenplay is born. So I guess what I'm trying to suggest or like throw out there for you to entertain is to think of this idea of ugly as the wound that you have. We all have it. Mine are the carrots to the head. Like that moment made me realize I'm going to show those bullies that I'm worth something, that I'm not a joke, that I can do stuff in the world. And it is this wound that I decided to, I guess, like look at and then jump into and swim around in. And out of that came the work that I've been up to. And I've studied story a long time. And what I love about story and I love about life is that it is based in this idea of contrast, okay? Contrast meaning night and day, ice and fire, right? So this idea of contrast runs throughout the greatest stories of all time. Even the greatest stories, they all start with orphans, like people that were unwanted, just like Oprah, Steve Jobs, and Obama. Like, think about it. You talk about Dorothy Gale, you talk about Oliver, Annie, you talk about Harry Potter living under the stairs, unwanted, right? All of these people had to go on a journey, and you immediately empathize with them because they don't have anything going for them. So the beautiful thing about your wound, the deeper it is, the greater the contrast. The more you get to play with it, the more you get to express your wound to the world and push it out, this ugly thing that could perhaps become beautiful if you worked hard enough at it. So here's the thing. I need to go really big right now. So this is not my opinion. I'm just going to like give you 4 minutes of facts. This is scientific facts as of what we know now. It could change. Sometimes science and testing, we figure it out. But let's go really big, okay? So let's start with something we discovered recently, which is that we all came from one woman. Okay, about 100,000 to 200,000 years ago, one woman birthed someone, and then out of that came the entire 7 billion human species. All of us are connected. We are all actually each other's brothers and sisters. That's true. Google it. You can look it up. It's true. I mean, not everything on Google is true, but my point is half true. Okay, so that's kind of amazing. Then you think about the fact that now we know that we are actually on a planet, a tiny planet that's circling in a vortex around the sun, okay? You know how you go like 80 on the freeway? Sometimes it's too fast. You get pulled over, 90, whatever. We are traveling through space at 43,496 miles per hour, every hour. That's how fast we're shooting through space at all times. We've been doing it for thousands of years. Like literally, through a vortex. Where are we going? I don't know, but I can't wait. Like seriously, that's just the facts, okay? Here's another fact. Your dad, we call it like a junk like package, like his ball sack. Like it has in it 1 billion opportunities for life. 1 billion chances. 1 billion semen. I'm not joking. And within like 3 seconds to like 7 seconds, depending, a part of you came out, and guess what? You made it into the egg out of 1 billion chances. This is a fact. You made it here to this planet. 43,396 miles per hour flying through space. You made it here. Congratulations. Like, that is awesome. Okay, so then, but the thing that's really awesome is your mom, there's like babies in the back. They're like 9 months old. The baby girl in the back, whose middle name is Everly, she has all the eggs she will ever need inside of her right now as I speak. All the eggs, all of them are in her right now. This is a fact, okay? This is what I learned yesterday. It doesn't even make sense. Maybe someone can explain it to me. Listen, it's one single DNA strand. You know how we've like figured out the DNA strands? Listen, one single DNA strand with its 3 billion individual characters mirror repeated 75 trillion times in the cells of one person. Just to count the individual characters in a single DNA strand at 1 character per second would take 96 years. 1 character per second counting inside of you. That's happening, that's in you. And we're like decoding it. But I think it's important. That's like a terabyte. That's like way more than a terabyte, you know? That's a lot more. So when I thought about ugly, I've been like getting really into Plato, because you should get into Plato. He's so smart. And he talked a lot about this thing called beauty. And most philosophers shy away from it or feel like it's superficial to talk about beauty. But he said that beauty is the embodiment at a psychological level as goodness. That's what he talked about it, as goodness. So it wasn't necessarily aesthetic. When he talked about the person, he talked about beauty as someone who is optimistic, open to experience, a little cynical, but generous. This was beauty to him. He says beautiful things have an important function. They invite us to evolve in their direction, to become as they are. Beauty can educate our souls, is what he said. Then he talked about ugly, and he said ugly is a serious matter too, because ugly parades as a dangerous and damaged characteristic in front of us. We need to stay away from them, for otherwise they encourage us to be like they are, manipulative, addictive, violent. He also said that in his time, he wanted this idea of a new celebrity, like these new people that we worship and look to. In Athenian society in Athens, they worshipped the wealthy, the rich. They were the greatest. Not much has changed when you realize that 100 families in this world own 50% of the world's wealth. Let me say it again. 100 families own 50% of the world's wealth. He says it matters who we admire because celebrities influence our outlook, ideas, and conduct, and bad heroes give glamour to flaws of character. There's this thing going around in LA, it might be in San Diego, I don't know, but people are like Banksying like walls and putting it in the streets, and they're saying, you can Google it, it says, stop making stupid people famous. Have you seen that? Stop. And I'm like, but it's us doing it. Like, we're talking to ourselves, you know? It's like my friend Tom Shadyac, he's like in traffic on the freeway. There's so much traffic. And then he's like, I am traffic. I'm actually here. Like, I'm here. I'm the problem. So this idea of making people famous, and Plato wanted to give Athens new celebrities, like replacing the current crop with ideally wise and good people, equaled guardians, models for everyone's good development. Listen to this. He said he wanted they were distinguished by public service, their modesty and simple habits, their dislike for the limelight, and their wide and deep experiences. It's amazing. I think he was talking about idealism. And idealists, he said, because we think it's a bad term to be idealistic, idealistic simply means you look at something and you can imagine it being better. That's what artists are supposed to do. Am I correct? We're not supposed to hold up a mirror to the ugliness of society and just that. We're supposed to shape it with the tools that we have been given, the thoughts that we have. Einstein was totally right. Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge takes into account everything that has happened, where imagination takes into everything that could possibly happen in the whole world and embraces it and brings it in. And I'm sad to say that we inherited some priorities that we don't like. We're just like, that's ugly. We think you're selfish. We think this sucks. And so we're going to change that through our art. Now, I want to talk about Brené Brown because she's the jam. And she talked about design and like our art this way. She said, design is a function of connection. Think about that. Design is a function of connection. There is nothing more vulnerable than creativity. And what is art if it's not love? We are hardwired for connection. See, I thought I was strong enough to take on the Coney 2012 beast. Like, I was like, yeah, because, you know, in high school, I was in my hoodie and being like, I'm not going to connect. And then I realized what Brené Brown studied and realized, which is we are hardwired for connection. She said it's dangerous to think that you can go around not caring what other people think. Artists that do that, it's not okay. We are hardwired. Our neocortex is so large. We crave sociability. We need the dopamine fix of the Instagram likes. Only 12? I'm going to delete the photo so no one sees it. And then people are like, well, I don't have like 1,200 likes. And then the next person on that level says, well, I don't have 12,000 likes. Well, I don't have 120. When does it stop? It doesn't. Well, seriously, we won't ever be happy. I swear to you, if you woke up tomorrow with 1 million followers, you'd be like, well, how do you get 2 million? How do I know this? Because I'm friends with people with millions, and they want more. They want more. It's a drug. We are craving it. And so here's the thing. This is what I love about Brené Brown. She says, if you are not in the arena, if you are not involved in like participating, creating, getting out there, standing on a stage, showing your art, playing your music, if you're not doing that, then I am not interested in your feedback. I'm not. I can't be bothered anymore. And I wish I knew that during Coney 2012 because, woo, things got hairy really quickly. And, you know, what's so crazy about that Coney 2012 experience was because Tom Shadyac, my mentor, he was like, the world is not as it is. The world is as you are. Does that make sense? Because you only have your consciousness and your eyeballs. And that's the only way you experience. So when I went on 17 shows in 2 days, New York, LA, all the top shows, this is what I was being asked, okay? How did you make a video go viral? How did you do that? And then almost everyone online was saying they're in it for the money. They're trying to make money off of us. You're stealing our money. That's what they're writing. You stole our money, and how did you make a video go viral? Not one person, from Anderson Cooper to Ann Curry to anyone I talked to, none of them said, how can we help bring back children who have been raped and turned into child soldiers? How can we do that? How can we help? That's the world we live in, you see? They were so curious. How could the San Diego dude, what's going on? How did you make a video go viral? Now, it's interesting. It's kind of cool to look at how, I'm not like blaming that, but no one cared about a 25-year war involving child slaves. And so to me, I was like, dang. So Charlie Kaufman, back to Charlie. Oh, well, what's cool, though, about the wound of Coney 2012 and the naked meltdown and me like cussing and going crazy, and like my friend pointed out, like, because we rewatched the video a couple months ago, and he's like, dude, you are totally triple clapping. I'm like, what? He's like, I could do a triple. I'm like, he's like, why are you triple clapping? I'm like, I don't know, I'm just super happy or something, or I don't know. But the cool thing about that process is seeing the underbelly of society. Like, I don't know if you've ever been there. Maybe some of you have. But when you get handcuffed and put into a mental ward, like, I was locked in a cage basically for 17 days with other people who have mental issues, okay? So me as a leader who, like, likes to command people and direct them, I'm like, first of all, I'm in my underwear. That's what they told me. And I'm, like, standing on the table being like, let's get out of here. I'm like, you guys don't get it. They have us locked in here. Like, we got to escape. And so we're like all, in the cage back, and we're smoking. We're like, okay, we're going to escape. We're going to get the... And I led a revolt because I wanted to go see the Hunger Games so bad. It was the night they got out. So I'm kung fuing the door, like running and kung fuing the door. And they had to inject me with needles to like literally put me comatose and strap me to a bed. And then I went to another facility that was a little more nice. But my point is that I'm at Disneyland a couple months out of the insane asylum. And this mom, like this soccer mom, comes up to me, and she's just like, she has 4 kids around her. We're by the bathrooms, by Indiana Jones over there. And she's like, we all lose our shit sometimes. And I was like, she's like, mine didn't get caught on camera. And then she was like, keep going. I was like, cool. So the thing, I tell that story because, like, it's ugly. Like, what happened was super ugly, and people were scared and confused, and rightfully so. But, like, the beauty of people coming up to me all the time saying, like, yeah, that's happened to my mom. That's happened to me. And so I want to go back to Charlie Kaufman because, like I told you, I think he's a genius. And this is what he says as far as, like, putting a thermometer into our culture's priorities. And here's what he says. People all over the world spend countless hours of their lives every week being fed entertainment in the form of movies, TV shows, newspapers, YouTube videos, and the internet. And it's ludicrous to believe that this stuff doesn't alter our brains. It's also equally ludicrous to believe that at the very least, this mass distraction and manipulation is not convenient for the people who are in charge. People are starving. They may not know it because they're being fed mass-produced garbage. The packaging is colorful and loud, but it's produced in the same factories that make Pop-Tarts and iPads, by people sitting around thinking, what can we do to get people to buy more of these? And they're very good at their jobs. But that's what it is you're getting, because that's what they're making. They're selling you something, and the world is built on this now. Politics and government are built on this. Corporations are built on this. Interpersonal relationships are built on this. And we're starving, all of us. And we're killing each other. And we're hating each other. And we're calling each other liars and evil because it's all become marketing. And we want to win because we're lonely and empty and scared. And we're led to believe winning will change all that. But there is no winning. So I like dark things like that because I feel like they're honest. But I also know that like through Kaufman's like really sincere but insecure place that he comes from is actually trying to say, look how ugly this is. Like if our ancestors, if that woman from 200,000 or 150,000 years ago came here, or even if like the indigenous people who were here before we were here, and they came and they looked at our priorities and what we were doing, do you think they would be like, perfect? Or do you think they'd be like, whoa, bummer, bummer? So I guess I'm trying to say is, for me, the idea that Steinbeck brings up, this book of East of Eden, he brings up this idea about art and creativity and storytelling. And it's such a good book that I tattooed the meaning of it to my right hand to always remember the fact that we have a choice. We didn't choose to come out of your mother's womb or get C-sectioned out or whatever. There was no choice. Did you make that choice? We're stuck here on this planet, like literally flying through space at 43,496 miles per hour. But what we do have, we have a choice to actually look at our wound and then express that in a way that can be so beautiful and resonate with people around the world. Dr. Martin Luther King, Gandhi, and like the abolitionists, thousands of people, they would have died for the internet. They would have been amazed. They would have been like, you're all connected? What are you going to do with the connectivity? We're going to sell shoes. Okay, cool. Shoes are cool. I love shoes. What else? What else are you going to do? Well, I don't know. What should we do? You can do a lot. You can actually tap into this thing that Steinbeck calls glory, okay? He talks about it like this. This is how he defines glory. Ben Kesey was like, glory, what does that mean? Like, it's a church thing. I'm like, no, listen to how Steinbeck explains glory. Sometimes a kind of glory lights up in the mind of a man or woman. It happens to nearly everyone. You can feel it growing or preparing like a fuse burning toward dynamite. It is a feeling in the stomach, a delight of the nerves of the forearms. The skin tastes the air, and every deep-drawn breath is sweet. Its beginning has the pleasure of a great stretching yawn. It flashes in the brain, and the whole world glows outside your eyes. A man may have lived all of his life in the gray, and the land and trees of him dark and somber. The events, even the important ones, may have trooped by faceless and pale. And then the glory, so that a cricket's song sweetens his ears. The smell of the earth rises chanting to his nose, and dappling light under a tree blesses his eyes. Then a man pours outward, a torrent of him, and yet he is not diminished. And I guess a man's importance in the world can be measured by the quality and the number of his glories. It is a lonely thing, but it relates us to the world. It is the mother of all creativeness, and it sets each man separate from all other men. I'm missing a page. Is there a page back there? There might be one in the back. So that to me is it. Like when I wake up, and I you always have your days like depressed or aimless. You feel like you're in this like creative tunnel of like, and there's no way out. You know, you've been there before. And most of the time when that happens, it's because you're thinking about what other people are going to think about what you think about thinking about it. That's the paralysis. That is it. And you know what? Most of your creative taste is so high because we were raised by stories, by media, by this large, giant world. And so our taste level is actually high, but we ourselves as artists, as storytellers, as musicians, aren't that good yet. And so when we start strumming the guitar or taking our photos or editing something, we're like, that sucks. And we know it sucks because it does suck. You actually suck at it really bad. It's just true. You should see my student films. They're so embarrassing. They're like terrible. Most people at that point stop. They actually stop. They're like, I tried 3 times and it still sucks. And Thomas Edison would be like, when you think you've exhausted all possibilities, remember this. You haven't. There's always going to be a way. And so the idea, if you talk to most creatives, it is truly the grind, the hustle, the 10,000 hours, the showing up, the doing it, the doing it, the doing it over and over and over and over. That is what makes you become in touch with the glory inside of you. And you have to know that that wound and that thing that makes you hurt, that makes you do things to yourself that are unkind, is the thing that can be transformed into something radically beautiful. So, kind of to wrap it all up, I think that for me, when I go about it, this is just what works for me. And so I know everybody's different, and that's a good thing. But when I think about starting the creative process, I first and foremost put myself into the seat of the viewer. So I actually picture myself before I come up on stage or before I make a video or whatever I do. I say, what would I want to see the most? What would I want to hear? What would inspire me? So I myself am actually in the seat watching what I've created. I know it sounds narcissistic, but that's how it works. And so like for Coney 2012, I was thinking, has there ever been a video or a movie that actually like tells you what to do? Like is actually like, it expires on this day. You have to do something. Like this interaction of you, me? Yeah, you. Who? Me? Yeah. Like most movies don't do that. You watch them and you're like, that was cool. And then you walk away. But you can actually, we are in a participatory place right now. Like, and the world is your oyster. I mean, Steven Spielberg said, like 14 years ago in my classroom at USC, we said, what is the future of film? And he says, the future of film belongs to any suburban kid with a camera who knows how to tell a story. That is it. You used to have $20 million to make a movie. Now you need $2,000. Or borrow a camera from the library or something. Or make it on your phone. It's like HD. You can actually do this. Just tell a good story. Tell a story that is important to you. And remember, keep in mind the entire time that everyone you meet, including yourself, is asking these three questions at all times. Do you see me? Do you hear me? And does what I say mean anything to you? Thank you for listening.